yeah. But we never had any problems at all. It wasn't until Exodus that they tried to prevent being boarded. And when I was already in Jerusalem by that time, so I didn't go to Exodus, but up to that time.
John, can you tell us again about the arrest of שמיר?
Well, the date must have been in the middle of 46. The British Army surrounded the whole of Jerusalem, and the 6th Airborne men went every house and brought
Jerusalem or Tel Aviv? Jerusalem or Tel Aviv?
Tel Aviv, yes. I'm sorry, did I say Jerusalem? Oh, I'm sorry. No, in Tel Aviv. I've never been, only time I've been to Tel Aviv before. But they went house to house and brought in all of the men to be interrogated. Martin and I and some of the Haifa people were in the gymnasia, a secondary school in North Tel Aviv, in the hall there, and Martin and I were sitting together with our mug shots and seeing all of this crowd of people coming in, well, the line of people, it just went on and on all day. But we eventually had a little Yasid who turned up, and Martin and I just looked at each other, and the disguise, I mean, he was genuinely, hair and beard were genuine, but the eyebrows gave him away because they were so bushy, and we just looked at each other, Martin and I, and we said, yeah. So he was arrested, and that night he was flown to Ethiopia, I think, or Uganda, Ethiopia. He was flown by RAF that night, and I think they spent the rest of the period. I don't know what happened to him really, but the following week, Martin, who was married to a Jewish woman and had a Jewish child and lived in Garden Street in Haifa, was walking to work, or left his home to walk to work, and he was shot by two young guys who were standing at his gate, dressed in tennis gear with big tennis bags, and they took Sten guns out of their bags and shot him there on the pavement. He died instantly, of course, and the next day I was transferred up to Jerusalem, so I went to Jerusalem CID. It was even worse as far as the Lehi situation was concerned. But from then on, I was with concerned with Lehi all the time. As said, I got to Jerusalem CID, and there were about 10 British. By the time I left a year later, there were only 3 of us who survived, but I did a certain amount of ordinary police, intelligence work, but it was always political that we were involved with. And I actually spent 6 months, most of the time, with Palmark. It's probably hard to understand, but there was a good deal of conflict between Palmark and Lehi particularly, and particularly in Jerusalem. There's quite a lot of fighting and, beating up guys from the other side and that sort of thing. I don't think there was any actual fighting at the time. They weren't shooting each other, but there was a good deal of bad feeling. And the Palmaki knew that I was, CID, and they were quite happy about it because they cooperated remarkably well. I mean, we got a lot of information from them at various times. It was all undercover, of course, and they got a lot of information from us too, of course. I might say we had information that Lehi leaders were going to have a meeting in a certain flat in North Jerusalem. So we did a stakeout there for 2 days and 2 nights, about 4 of us. It was not very much fun, I might say, just sitting in a flat waiting for something to happen. But we eventually arrested 4 leaders of Lehi in Jerusalem, and they were taken to Latrun, of course. We missed one. He was the intelligence guy. I don't know why he didn't turn up, but he was the one that we missed. So after that, we again got, just before the end of the mandate, we got information, I think, to say that a lot of Irgun had been seen entering a certain house just off Ben Yehuda Street. So we raided that, and on the roof there was a sort of a terrace, and it was actually the Irgun office in Tel Aviv, and the Irgun were so very well organized. They really were. Everything was there. There was all the records of the members wanting to join, or the people who they wanted to join Irgun were there. They had to fill out a little green card with their details, and they had to get a member to certify that it was correct and all the rest. And all of this stuff was there. We confiscated it, or there was a lot of historical. It's all in Hebrew, so we didn't really. I mean, few of us could read Hebrew, or really could speak a certain amount, but we didn't get it translated. It went to Palma.
Really?
So it was almost as if they wanted us to collect the information that they would be able to use. But Palma, I mean, the division between Palmach and Lehi was pretty bitter in Haifa, in Jerusalem at that time. The rest of the country I don't really know very much about. But I lived for 6 months as the Englishman in Palmach. And then, of course, once the trouble started, CID pretty rapidly closed down. In fact, our last job in CID was when the old city was surrounded, and the British Army had observation posts in the Armenian Quarter in particular, and on the wall. And they had arrested 8 of the members. I don't know if you know, but there had been 100 men had been sent in from the new city to the old city to defend it. And they arrested 8 of these and brought them into us. We were closing down the station. We had nowhere to put them and nothing to do with them. So a sergeant, a fellow called Sergeant Dack, and a driver and a constable called Nash, myself, we put them in the back of an old radio wagon, Wallace truck, which enclosed, and we drove them from the Russian compound right back into the old city, through the Arab quarter, back into the Jewish quarter. And I don't know if they ever thanked us, because of course they would have been taken prisoners shortly afterwards. But that was the last that we did. And after that we were all transferred to armoured cars. And I spent quite a bit of time escorting the convoys up from Latrun to Jerusalem, and also down to Jericho. And we did one trip down to Etzion at the time. But my armoured car got blown up, and that was when I got finally transferred back to my father's station, which was to Karen. And I stayed there for a while until I was sent to Haifa, part of the organisation of taking the last of the equipment and the men and that out, shipping them out of Haifa. And I was actually on the last ship to leave. Apart from the men, there was what we called the Gallant 500, who stayed behind after the mandate finished, just to clear things up. But apart from that group, I was on the last ship to leave.
Can you comment? There is a theory that the British police deliberately destroyed records and equipment rather than handing them over to the Israeli police.
They had an old barge, a motor barge in Haifa, and everything, the files and armored vehicles and anything that they could get rid of, they piled on, or they took on this barge, took it out to the 3-mile limit, and just pushed it all overboard.
So it's still there.
Must be. I don't know if there were any tanks, but there were certainly armored cars and stuff like that, just out of Haifa at the 3-mile limit. They were doing that for days.
It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good. I know my family